All right, so let's talk about assignment number 9. The annotated bibliography is graded. Please go back and look at my comments on that because you'll need to make some changes probably on your works cited entry, so you can get out ahead of that now and look through the handouts that are in assignment number 8, that module, but also my comments, which maybe I clarify some things to help you as you're working through them. Or reach out through email, which is like raising your hand, and you can ask me some questions already before you start drafting or while you're drafting this week, so that you can, like I said, get out ahead of some of these issues with the works cited entries. Or you come across something that unexpected and you need some clarification when it comes to a particular type of source, I'd be more than happy to help you figure that out. So if we talk about assignment number 9, you're writing the draft. So from the title through the conclusion, you need at least 2,100 words. Beyond that, you need a works cited page, and remember, your works cited page needs to have only the sources that you cite in the essay itself. So if you don't cite the source, you don't use a parenthetical citation, it doesn't go in your works cited entry. And remember, now that we're transitioning, that we have transitioned from the rhetorical analysis, remember how important it is to build your credibility. So as a student at the University of Cincinnati, you are not an expert or an authority on the topics that you are writing about. So you establish your credibility like Pamela Paul establishes her credibility when she's writing about something that she doesn't have a technical background in, by the credibility of the more knowledgeable others that she includes and references in her writing. So the same thing goes for you. The quality of your research determines your credibility. So you want to make sure that you incorporate that credible research in your essay. Also, the use of I. So can you use I? Yes, in limited capacity. So what do I mean by that? Well, you could start your essay with a personal anecdote, a short personal anecdote to draw the reader in. Something about you or your life or an experience that relates in some way to your topic or illustrates something. And then you have a transition, you include some contextual background info about your topic, and then you give your argumentative stance, and then I disappears. If you'd like to use I in a emotional appeal, so you include something about your life or experiences in a paragraph, it can be used as a limited personal example, but that's it. Outside of that, if you do I think and I believe, it ultimately undercuts the authority and the credibility, the assertiveness of your argument, because then it just becomes what you think and what you feel. Obviously, your argument is based on an opinion, but you don't want it to sound as if it's an opinion. There are always two sides to a topic, right? Nothing is ever 100%, one-sided, and that's why you need to anticipate a counter argument. But you don't want to draw attention to yourself as the writer as these are just my thoughts, because they're not. Because honestly, you're taking that opinion, that stance, and you're backing it up with credible research. That's why this is an argumentative research essay. It shouldn't sound like a journal entry. It shouldn't sound like somebody who's trying to figure it out as they're writing it. It should be, I have sat down, I have done the research, and I am presenting a clearly articulated argument that's backed up with credible sources, so that's convincing. And then you're also going to present the anticipating counter argument, pro-catalepsis, where maybe you make a concession and you concede something to the other side of the argument. Like, let me give you a very basic stripped down example. Technology is bad. You want to argue something about technology being bad. You're not going to convince people never to use technology. You're not going to convince people that 100% they should walk away from technology and never use it. What you could do is present some of the negative sides of technology, some of the dark sides to technology, and then you can anticipate a counter argument and provide a concession. Here are the good things about technology. However, this outweighs those positives. And again, your argument probably will not be effective if you try to argue no one should use technology at all. But maybe after you make that concession and you talk about how the negatives outweigh those positives, maybe at that point you say something about curbing technology use by people of a certain age, and why, or parental controls, or what could be a solution where people aren't throwing technology out altogether, but a way that they could use technology in a more responsible manner to avoid some of the drawbacks that you're pointing out in the essay. So this is a sophisticated way of writing. You were able to see sophisticated examples of rhetorical analysis. When you did the rhetorical analysis, you were able to see some sophisticated essays, articles, where people were presenting things in a way to be as persuasive as possible. And that's what you're going to try to do in this essay. So this is you attempting to take some of the things that you learned from the rhetorical analysis and then use them with rhetorical techniques that you've seen these published writers, these mentor texts use, so that you can be as persuasive as possible. So some things to keep in mind this week. You definitely want to meet the minimum word count. You want to make sure that it is research focused, not you focused. And you need to make sure that whatever goes in your works cited page is actually cited in your essay. And then if you have any questions or concerns, raise your hand, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer them. All right, so happy writing this week. I look forward to reading your drafts, and reach out if you need anything.